Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Remember when leftoids were saying, "It's time to shut up, Republicans. He shot down the damn balloon. Enough of your whining." Joe Biden probably said something to the effect of, "Listen, Jack, I shot the balloon, corn pop. Now quit your yapping." But on a serious note, these leftoids and the Biden administration kept telling us they took care of the job as quickly as possible. They were on top of it since the start and they took the balloon down the moment it was appropriate. That's what they said. Well, of course, like usual with these Biden clowns, what they say doesn't exactly line up with reality, with the truth. It's once again another propaganda campaign to avoid accountability for their actions, or rather inaction. Like usual, these goons in the Biden administration continue to be absolutely terrible criminals. They're not exactly good at covering up their tracks. The truth ends up coming out, and they end up looking like absolute corrupt liars once again. Finally, we have all the real details involving the Chinese spy balloon, and surprise to no one, it's not exactly good for the Brandon regime. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so you gotta take a look at this CBS report. It is absolutely damning.
Back here in Washington, there is breaking news tonight on that Chinese spy balloon. CBS News has just learned that U.S. intelligence watched the high-flying airship as it lifted off near China's south coast. That means the U.S. military had been tracking it for nearly a week before it entered U.S. airspace, longer than originally known.
They were, Nora, and what they saw was this balloon heading east from China towards Guam and Hawaii, but then it took a sharp northward turn, a beeline towards Alaska. They also revealed today that the three subsequent objects they shot down probably were not involved in spying.
So we are now learning that U.S. intelligence watched the Chinese spy balloon as it lifted off near China's south coast, meaning that the U.S. military had been tracking it for nearly a week before it entered the United States airspace. Now, we had some preliminary reporting essentially suggesting something similar, but certainly not to this extent. The reports that we were reading at the time were suggesting that the Chinese spy balloon was being tracked off the western coast of the United States. Apparently, they were tracking it all the way from China. So essentially, U.S. intelligence had been aware of a flying object being released off the coast of Chinese soil, traveling across the ocean into U.S. airspace. It traveled for nearly 2 weeks, unimpeded, and Joe Biden's White House did nothing about it. They just let it go. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken had an upcoming diplomatic trip to China, and so the Biden regime cowered and let the Chinese spy balloon in unimpeded, and had probably no intention of taking it down, probably not until after Anthony Blinken's trip to China, because apparently not angering the Chinese authoritarian regime is a higher priority than American national security. And we're talking about national security concerns within the United States borders. The dynamic with Brandon's regime is endlessly frustrating. It seems literally impossible to get to the truth or get to the bottom of anything. We shot the balloon down as soon as we could, Jack. Now we're learning it was probably nearly 2 weeks after the balloon had lifted off. Oh, we impeded the balloon. China got nothing. Now Secretary of State Anthony Blinken seems to be singing a different tune.
Do we still believe that the balloon, the surveillance balloon over the continental United States was an intentional act? Or do you believe that part of it was an accident?
Well, Chuck, what I can tell you is this. What is clear is that once the balloon was over the United States and flying basically west to east, it attempted to surveil very sensitive military sites. In some cases, it loitered or returned to them as it progressed east. So there is no doubt in our minds at all that A, this was a surveillance balloon, and B, it was attempting to engage in active surveillance.
China attempted to surveil and gather data on sensitive military zones. Attempted? It seems as though they did totally unimpeded. It's impossible to get a straight answer and seemingly impossible to just get the basic, unaltered truth. It's nothing but duplicitous propaganda speak. And of course, by extension, making it impossible to trust this administration on anything. They tell you one thing, but the truth tends to be a little bit more nuanced, let's say, or the exact opposite of what they're telling you. Did they actually intercept the balloon? The Brandon regime has stated on multiple occasions that that they blocked the balloon from gathering data. What evidence do we have to suggest that that's an actual accurate statement? Pretty much no evidence at all. Chances are that China got everything that they wanted, probably everything and some, considering the balloon was allowed to travel from one coast to the other from Alaska, all the way to, I think, near North Carolina, if I'm not mistaken off the top of my head. They were probably expecting the balloon to get shot down over Alaska. CCP intelligence officers probably laughing their behinds off. What the heck is this stupid old American president allowing us to get away with? And now the next piece of what seems to be completely dishonest propaganda coming from this administration is the whole aftermath spin. These dishonest Democrat goons trying to craft this narrative that the only reason spy balloons are even being caught now in the first place is because of their actions.
Okay, there were, of course, those 3 other balloons. I know President Biden has said he wants to keep America safe, but how can Americans feel safe if we have the most sophisticated weaponry in the world and surveillance, and we thought those 3 balloons were a threat, not just weather or recreational balloons?
Martha, here's what's happened. When we began to track the Chinese surveillance balloon, one of the things that we did was to recalibrate our radars and other systems that were looking up in the sky. And as a result, we began to see things that in years past we simply weren't looking for or looking at, including the objects that were subsequently shot down.
The only reason we're even catching these balloons now is because we've recalibrated our radar systems. And that's how we were able to see these balloons over the United States. There's so much wrong with this statement. First of all, the claim that now, all of a sudden, as they've recalibrated their radar systems, they've realized that actually there were 3 balloons that went undetected during the Trump administration. How exactly are you able to retroactively gather that kind of data? It's kind of unclear. It seems just like a dishonest talking point to slam the previous administration and to portray yourself as a hero. Also, if you've recalibrated your radars and made them so incredible that you're now able to see everything in American airspace, why is it that we're now getting reports that you were aware of the balloon before it was even launched from the Chinese mainland? And what's also highly suspicious and very fishy is the Brandon regime on multiple occasions now using $400,000 military heat-seeking missiles to take down hobbyist weather balloons. We're learning that actually, many of the balloons that were taken down after the Montana Chinese spy balloon were hobbyist research balloons probably worth like $10 or something, and the Brandon regime used $400,000 heat-seeking missiles to take them down because their radars are now so good that they're catching, I don't know, helium balloons from a girl's birthday party, and then trying to spin that into a favorable headline. We've recalibrated our radars and now we're taking down all the Chinese spy balloons. None of it makes sense. It seems like highly disingenuous government propaganda attempting to rewrite history. Clearly this was a national security blunder. Clearly it was a failed response, inaction, incompetence, and now they're trying to twist the narrative to attack the previous administration and claim that they've made incredible leaps and bounds and innovations in radar technology over the last, I don't know, I guess a couple of months, and now finally they're able to assess threats in American airspace. You mean to tell me that the greatest military in human existence, with the greatest technology, didn't have the ability to monitor its own airspace until sleepy creepy Joe Brandon came in office? I highly doubt that. Oh, but of course it's the most transparent administration in American history, so it must be true. Just like Vladimir Putin probably blew up his own Nord Stream pipeline as well. He really wanted to shoot himself in the foot, sabotage himself as he was invading a foreign nation. Holy moly, I believe nothing. Nothing that comes out of Anthony Blinken's mouth or any of these criminal Biden agents. None of it makes sense. It's the most dishonest, the most criminal, and the least transparent administration of my lifetime. But that's just one man's opinion. But that's what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, friends, and hopefully I'll see you on the next one.